Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? What you are about to witness is real.
This is not a dream, but a new beginning.
Stand by for uplink.
The Don Hanston Show, straight up.
Thank you.
GPS uplink now completed with Google Earth. Commencing the official countdown in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Straight Up, the Don Hanston Show, along with DJ Marcel, our producer, and host Don. I'm Sal. We're going to be with you for about a half hour. How's everybody doing? How's it going, Don?
Good. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, it is early here. I'll tell you that. Don, we had talked about doing a show, bringing up transitioning from or exchanging bad habits to good habits. And that's what you had said. And so I think today we're going to address that a little bit and go over a few things. I know you had told me some stuff. And just like everybody out there, we all have bad habits. I'm sure we all have some good habits. But trying to pinpoint how we exchange them, how do we switch it over? Is that right?
Yeah, well, there's things in your life that are going good for you. And, probably it's a result of good habits, right? And there's things that aren't going in the correct direction, or you'd prefer them to be in a better direction. It could be something as simple as you wake up and you look in the mirror and you don't see what you like. It could be going to, the doctor and your blood tests don't reflect what they should be, and you're in potential harm or danger of medical issues. Or it could be your athletic abilities, all these things. So I'm gonna say a simple habit that maybe you could change. Maybe you watch TV, or maybe you don't really get moving, and you say, you know what, I want to get in better shape, right? Whether I want to feel better, I want to look better, or I want to have more energy, or I want to be more athletic, so I can do different activities and hobbies with my friends. And so you say, you know what, I'm going to start working out, right? I'm going to start working out. But how do I do that? I mean, I got to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then when I get home, I got to make food and do the dishes and clean the house, and, I don't have time. So you say, okay, well, I have to get up early, right? So you say, okay, what time do I got to get to the gym? I got to get to the gym at 5:30, work out till 6:30 or 7, take a shower and go to work. So you change the habit where you're going to work out, okay? So there's other habits that are going to have to fall in line in order to make that happen, right? You're going to have to go to bed early, right? You're going to have to eat more nutritional food, right? You're going to have to drink more water. And then also what's going to go along with that is a lot of your environment, a lot of your relationships, right? Yes. You go out with the guys and they're drinking and they're out late. Well, you don't want to be drinking because you don't want to be hungover. You're going to work out early in the morning. You're not going to stay out late, right? Because you go to bed early. So, you change one habit, and what happens is changing one bad habit can potentially change up to 10 or 100 other habits. And basically, to change a habit, all you need to do is do the same activity 20 days in a row. So let's just call it a month, right? If you do it for a month in a row, it becomes automatic. All of a sudden, you just know. You go to bed at this time, you wake up at this time, you go to the health club at this time, and then you go to work at that time. So, what happens is you could ultimately change a habit per month very, very simply, just changing one. And it could be something even a lot smaller than what I had said. But once you start getting into betterment and you start feeling better and looking better and feeling better about yourself and medically better and more athletic and all this other stuff, you're going to say, wow, I changed one habit, and look at the result, right? And so then you start really, once you start making a big impact in your life, what happens is you'll start looking at very small things, organizational things, any type of thing that saves you money or saves you time. You're going to implement that, and all of a sudden, your life gets better. And just think how much better your life could be in 365 days if you changed one habit per month.
Oh, that sounds like a great idea. And like I had said earlier, sometimes I think it's a little easier said than done for some people. I'm glad you brought up change your environment. That's what I had on my list because I think that's important. Another thing I had on here, though, is to identify your triggers for the bad habits.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of those triggers. I mean, it's a reactive minded thing. It's not really what you need, but in your subconscious you do. And it's kind of like a lot of people, like I say, people want to stop smoking, right?
Yeah.
And and I say, well, if I smoked and I'm going to stop smoking, just stop smoking. I mean, it's done. And people are like, oh, you make it sound so easy. And I said, you make it sound so hard. And I think the difference between the two is excuses and horsepower, right? You have horsepower. This is what I'm going to do, and this is my intention, and I'm going to make it happen. Where somebody doesn't have horsepower, right? Maybe they take Shantex, which is poison, basically, to quit smoking, right? And then they go back to smoking. Then they get the Nicorette or the patches or whatever, hypnotism, whatever they do, and then they go right back to it. It's all within, and it's all horsepower within. It's not outside things that's going to make you change your mind and change what's in your subconscious that makes you reactive. And so I don't really believe in all that. People say, you don't understand addiction. And I said, no, I don't understand weakness, okay? Addiction? I don't believe, no. It's a medical thing. It's not a medical thing.
Well, I've had this discussion before with certain individuals when we made reference to alcoholics. And when people say, well, it's a disease. And I always said, it's not a disease. It's a choice. It's a bad decision. A disease is cancer, leukemia, stuff like that. That's a disease. Alcoholics, it's a choice. They made a choice. And I got a lot of blowback from that. And I may get a lot of blowback from saying this now. But that's how I always viewed it. I don't think that it's a disease. If you're making bad habits, like smoking. Well, why wouldn't you say smoking? Well, I smoke. Well, it's a disease. I never hear that. I only hear it's a disease when you're an alcoholic. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't know. They have all of these convoluted words for the medical thing, dopamine, and all these words that really don't mean a whole bunch of shit. At the end of the day, I played hockey forever, and you did too. So we were the ultimate in partiers. I mean, we were drinking. You put it in a glass, we're drinking, and we don't give a shit, right? And you're drinking all night, and you're partying, and everything else. If alcoholism is real, then why aren't I an alcoholic?
Well, yeah, exactly. Okay? We made a choice to stop.
Exactly. And, years ago, the amount of booze that I could drink, and I was like, I didn't even seem affected from it. People would say, well, it's because, your tolerance is high, you must be an alcoholic. But then I wouldn't drink for a week or a month. So, no, it's not. That's not an illness. It's
a choice.
Again, people...
Choice, right?
Exactly. Yeah. People will get very mad at
yeah.
that, and they'll say, you don't understand. And that's fine.
I caught a lot of grief.
Everyone has a different perspective. You know what I mean? And yeah. And it's sometimes the truth is too harsh for a lot of people. And that's why they get so offended or pissed off, is because the truth does not resonate with a lot of people. The truth, they have their own truth, right? Their own truth is basically excuses. And somebody who's an alcoholic and they listen to this, they'd be like, these guys are assholes. And I'd be like, okay.
Oh, that's definitely going to happen. I think we're going to get some comments and some emails of people disagreeing with us. And I understand that, and I welcome it. But, I mean, if you go on a bender and you're drinking, say you're in your 20s, you're away at school, and you're drinking 4 or 5 days in a row. And I know they always say, well, the best thing to do in the morning if you have a hangover is have a beer with tomato juice, something like that. Tomato juice obviously put the iron back in your system.
Hair of the dog.
Correct. Right. So, and I always said, well, yeah, but that's, I think, a bad thing, because then you wake up the next day, you start drinking again to feel better, and then that starts this cascade of, of addiction, in a sense, where you make the choice to drink so you feel better. Next thing you know, it's a month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe 30 days, like you had said earlier. And all of a sudden, it's a bad habit, and you're doing it all the time. Whereas me and you could drink for a couple of days and then say, all right, you know what? I can't handle this anymore. I need to stop. I need to have a Coke. I need to take a nap and be done. Where other people might say, well, I need a beer so I feel better. Well, then aren't you like, you're just always progressing this, right? To feel better.
You're creating the addiction.
Right.
It's kind of like the guy that, I mean, I could never understand drugs, but the guy that takes cocaine or heroin, right? And then they start coming down from it, so they need more. And then they need more, and they need more, and and the next dose isn't enough, so they need even more. And before you know it, they get so used to this shit, right?
Yeah.
Either they overdose or life goes in a tumble. Then they go and they dry out, and they come back out of these places, and they do the amount that they did before they went in, then you overdose right away. So it's the same thing with the booze. Like, how many times did you go out and party like hard, right? And then the next morning you say, I'm never drinking again. I've said that 5 bazillion times, right? I'm never drinking again. And when you finally get sober, you're like, oh, God. But the guys that would be like, oh, yeah, like you said, Boilermaker in the morning, do some tomato juice, whatever. And they drink, all they're doing is they're continuing their high, right? And so if you do that, right, like you said, you're creating a bad habit. And then the next day you wake up and then you hit it with another hair of the dog. And before you know it, I used to talk to guys and be like, oh, yeah, I'd say, yeah, I saw this guy in the tavern at 6 in the morning. And the one guy says, sometimes they just need a little jump start in the morning. And I'm like, that's alcoholism.
Yeah, definitely. But it's not a disease.
My dad was
not a disease, right?
Right. My dad was a police, and he used to say, when they lock up these guys that were alcoholics, he said they keep some cheap wine or some shitty scotch or something in the desk. And when they had him in lockup and they started like drying out, they get like the DTs or whatever, give him a couple sips of the shit, and these guys put them back on track. He's like, these guys were, so like they couldn't come down. They've been probably buzzed for the last 20 years every single day, that when they come down off that, they get those DTs, and it's brutal. And he says, so you just give them a little sip of some shit and they're back on track. So it's kind of interesting, the different things that we do to kind of keep people, in their normalcy, which I don't think is normalcy, but you know what I mean. But I don't want to get off track, but yeah, like changing habits, right? It's so important to change habits.
Understanding your motivations, like why do you want to change? If what do they always say? Nobody's going to change until they want to change, right? I can't convince you to stop drinking if you want to drink until you want to stop drinking.
Well, typically,
changing your motivation.
Typically, people don't look to change something until they have a problem. Okay, and it's usually a dire need, right? Guys got his heart's working at 15%. All of a sudden, they decide they gotta quit drinking, or they have to start eating healthy, or they need to exercise, right? Yeah. There was a need, right? Because they're going to die, or they're going to be in a rehab place for the rest of their life until they die, or nursing home or some shit. Well, a lot of times people wait until they have that need to change, okay? And what happens if you start doing changes in your habits now, when everything's good, right? Because things either get better or they get worse, nothing stays the same. So if you're on the track of getting better and you're constantly looking for habits to change to get better, okay, what happens is it's like preventive maintenance, right? It's kind of like exercising when you're not sick. It's kind of like stretching when you don't have mobility issues. It's kind of like getting a blood test when you feel really good to make sure your levels are good. It's kind of like just doing preventive maintenance. So when you constantly seek betterment in your habits, right, what's going to happen is it's changing the oil in your car. It's not waiting till the rod starts knocking to decide you're going to change the oil. Right now, you got to change the whole engine. So I think that people don't look at it. People think that their life's on cruise control. Right? My life's on cruise. Everything's status quo. How many times you hear people say that? Everything's fine. Everything's status quo. Same old, same old. You hear the same shit from people all the time. Well, basically what that means is they're deteriorating, but at a very, very, very gradient level, very, very small level. So they don't really understand that they're deteriorating. And that's basically why people, as they age, they get in worse condition, okay? But if you have somebody that's constantly trying to figure out, okay, now I'm not drinking pop, I'm drinking water. Now I'm not just drinking water, I'm drinking hydrogen water, or I'm drinking, magnetic water, or whatever they're doing. Like they're doing is they're micromanaging little bitty things for betterment, and that's what happens once you get in a really good state. Is you start looking at little bitty changes that could potentially change your life for the better, and when you do that, your life actually gets better. So as you get older, life gets better, and most people, as they get older, life gets worse, and and that's their agreement. Oh yeah, well, I'm old. I'm not supposed to be able to move. I'm not supposed to be able to play hockey. I'm not supposed to be able to do this and that, and all these excuses why they should be getting old. But the only reason they're getting old and deteriorated is because they're allowing themselves to go downhill. They're not constantly improving their habits.
Well, it's funny. You said something earlier about, instead of drinking or whatever, have some water, have some vitamin water, something like that. And what I had seen is something that says, find new habits that provide similar rewards. So,
sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
do you say like, well, instead of, getting a buzz today or whatever, I'm going to have some, coffee, some caffeine or something that would keep me going, keep me motivated, keep my energy up. So something along those lines, right?
I think sometimes a big change is too much for a lot of people, right? It's too much for them to swallow. So sometimes you got to go on a gradient level, right? Maybe you go from the booze, right? Maybe then you go to a sugary drink like Coke or Pepsi or some shit like that. Then maybe you change to Kool-Aid. Then maybe you change to lemonade. Then maybe you change to vitamin water. Then you change to water. Then you change to, hydrogen water. Then you just can't. Maybe it's more on a gradient level because people can't change. Guy can't go from a drunk, right? Just his life's obliterated, to getting up at 4:30 in the morning and going to the health club and going to bed early. It's not going to happen. They need more of a gradient change.
So start
right?
small,
And,
make an action plan, but start small is what you're saying.
Exactly. And so, but as things start turning around for you, see, once you got the taste of betterment, once your life gets better, right? It does usually with age, right? Because people don't expect that they can get better, but if they get better, you'll be like, wow, I feel really good, or wow, I'm around somebody that's 20 years younger than me, and I look younger than them, or I feel better than them, or I'm capable of doing more than them, and then now they get a taste of the good life. Now they're like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Now I'm in better condition than somebody that's half my age.
Yeah.
Now I'm in better condition, or I look better than somebody that's a third my age, right? And so, we talked about comparing yourself. Well, comparing yourself is one thing, but I think if you're trying to get better, using something as a guide is a good way to kind of manage that, right?
Yeah.
And if you're around people that are your age, and you kind of
said change your environment or get support from friends and family, right? Isn't that basically what you're saying?
Yeah. So, but you can use a lot of things for gauges too, right? And I think that you have to have something to kind of gauge where you're going with your betterment. But ultimately, it's within, right? If you feel good, if you look good, or you think you look good, if you're confident. I think that a lot of these are kind of like the dashboard for you to look at to kind of decide if you're going in the right direction or the wrong direction. And sometimes you'll make a change that you think's for the better, and it's really not, right? Maybe you do that workout thing and you're getting up too early and you're not getting enough sleep because you don't really go to sleep, and fall asleep until late. You're not getting enough sleep. Maybe that's deteriorative.
But you won't do it until you want to do it.
Exactly. And so there's even changes within the changes, right? You're working out, right? As I get older, the workouts keep changing. What worked yesterday doesn't work today. So, it could be going from the heavy weights, right, to the medium weights, to the low weights, to the high reps, to the stretching, to the cardiovascular, to low intensity cardiovascular. It doesn't matter, but you gotta constantly be adjusting so you feel, you look better, and you're in better medical shape, so you don't have to deal with doctors and hospitals and all this crap, medicine. Sal, your mic's off.
There we go. I know the screen had froze at one point when you were talking, but I think we're back now. I know they had also said You know, you need to be persistent with what you're going to do. And also, the other thing that they said was important, that it was important to reward yourself. When you change one bad habit to a good habit, reward yourself in some way.
Yeah, I mean, and you could even reward yourself with a little bit of bad, right? Like, so let's just say you change your diet, right? And so let's say you don't eat any sugary foods. Let's say you don't eat any fried foods. Let's say you eat only live food.
Yeah.
And you eat all this stuff, and you're like, you know, I really have a taste for something sweet, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all the time, but once in a while, you know what? It's okay. You can grab a cookie, you can grab a piece of fudge, a little ice cream, something. Don't do it all the time. What affects you is not what you do some of the time, it's what you do most of the time. So if most of the time you're on top of it and you're constantly looking at betterment, sometimes that little bit of a tweak actually gets you in better shape. Sometimes a little bit of a change actually gets you in good shape. I noticed that because I don't drink alcohol, but I'm not against it and I don't dislike it. And once in a while I'll get together with the guys and I'll have a drink or two or three, but usually not a lot. But sometimes it kind of makes you feel bad, and it kind of makes you feel like, well, this is why I don't do it. And there's other times where it actually makes you, like, it throws a curveball into your system. Your system, if you're always doing the right thing, sometimes you actually create a little bit of weakness. Sometimes you got to give a little bit of the poison, you know. And I'm not saying that with like drugs or anything like that, or if you think that you're an alcoholic and all of a sudden you became dry, because you're going to go right back to I'm an alcoholic and I have to drink all the time, or I'm a drug addict. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying with small things, right? If you work out every single morning and then one morning you say, you know what, I'm not going to work out this morning. I'm just going to relax. I'm going to have a cup of coffee, read my newspaper, whatever it is that you do. It's okay. You don't have to do it all the time, but just make sure that you stick with your habit, because what's going to happen is, let's say you, in lieu of working out, you decide you're going to stay home in your pajamas and read the newspaper and drink some coffee, right? What's going to happen is you're going to feel like you're missing out because you didn't go to the club. Mm-hmm. You didn't go to the health club and work out. So you're going to miss that betterment habit that you have, and you're going to feel like it doesn't feel right. So it's kind of a cool thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's the hard part for a lot of people, you know, like we had mentioned about your environment and what's your motivation. You know, I have a lot of friends that typically hang at a certain establishment where I go, and it's like every time I'm hanging with them, there's one consistent thing, is that we're having a few beers, you know, we're watching some sports. So if I was looking to not drink beer anymore, I would have to change that environment, change friends around me, because it would be too hard to go and hang with them people, especially if I wanted to have a beer, because everybody's drinking. You know, so I think it is important to change your environment and also be aware of what friends and family you hang around with. Probably mostly friends and family, but I think that is important if you want to change, and I think that's the key here, because I always fall back on that no one is going to change. You could tell a relative, you could tell a friend, hey, you're drinking too much, you need to stop. But until they come to the realization that they should stop, it's going in one ear and right out the other. They're not going to listen to you. And I've seen those situations before, been in those situations before. Don't you agree?
Well, every decision is up to the individual, right? So you can tell me, or I can tell you whatever we want, right? And then ultimately that decision's up to you, because you're the creator of your own life. So if you don't want to change, it's fine. And a lot of people think, because like we talked about earlier in the show, before the show, I should say, pre-show, you had mentioned that a lot of your relationships you continue to have because you have longevity in those relationships. And I think a lot of it's got to do with habits too, right? I've been drinking or I've been smoking for 30 years. You know what I mean? Why would I change? Or it's going to be too hard to change, right? Or if I'm around somebody that's smoking or drinking, I'm just going to have to smoke or drink. So it's kind of like the same thing. I think that people like to stick with what they know, right? And what they've done, what they've experienced. So I think longevity has a lot to do with it. Like, A lot of people don't want to experience nuance, right? Like a lot of people are comfortable with the people that they hang around with and the things that they've done, even if they're deteriorative relationships. A lot of people are comfortable with their habits, if they're bad habits, because they don't want to. They don't want anything new in their life. They kind of like people. We're creatures of habit, right? We're creatures of habit, and typically we do what our habits are, and that's why this show is very important, and it's changing habits, right? Because people think that they're embedded in their habits, and their habits make them who they are, right? And when you realize that by changing your habits, you could actually change yourself for a much better self. When people come to that realization, all of a sudden they get this thirst for betterment. They get this thirst for change. What could I change to make me better?
Yeah, that's the hard part, getting to that point.
It is, and it's a mindset. It's paradigm, right? You got to change. You got to change your thoughts in order to change your actions. So, I mean, if you're going to stick with the same thoughts, you're going to have the same actions. Okay, it all starts between your ears. So you have to be prepared, and you have to be okay with change. And a lot of people aren't, and a lot of older people die. And the reason why they die is because they stick with their belief system, they stick with their habits, and they go down with the ship. When the ship sinks, they sink. And unfortunately, that's how it goes. And the people that usually survive at a very high level are the people that are willing to say, I'm okay with change because change makes me better.
Yeah.
Not I'm going to go down with the sinking ship so I can be right, and I can believe that what I'm doing is the right move. I think a lot of it's got to do with that too.
You get a lot of people that say, you know what, I'm going to die anyways. I'm getting older, so I'm going to be happy. Why should I quit smoking? I want to die happy. Why should I go on a diet? Because I want to be happy up until the last days, and probably not realizing that these habits, bad habits that you've created, could get you to that point a lot quicker than if you didn't do it, right?
They create your demise, right? But I mean, people say, "Well, I'm gonna die doing what I love doing." Okay, that's fine. People could do whatever they want, and I'm not here to criticize. What I think isn't right for other people, it's right for me, and I think it's right for a lot of people. But if you think that you're going to be happy and you're smoking, and you think you're going to be happy when your lungs fill with fluid or whatever happens, you slowly suffocate. If you think that that's happiness, then it's happiness. How am I here to tell you that it's not happiness? But I'll tell you what, suffocating would not be happiness for me. No way.
Me either. Well, it's been an interesting show as we start to wind down here, Don. We got a few minutes left. Is there any final thoughts you wanted to add before we close this out?
Well, I think the only thought that I have is, if you want to make a change, if you want to make a better you, just kind of look at what it is that you're doing, and see if there's anything that you'd like to change. And you don't have to change it at a drastic level, but if you have it in your mind, change it. Do it for 30 days. All of a sudden, it's going to embed if it's something that creates betterment for you. And once you do one or two habits, it's going to change a lot of other habits. And I think that you're going to create a thirst for betterment. When you do that, your life's going to be on fire. It's going to be awesome.
So start slow, little bits, and then as you start to see improvement and feel better, hopefully those feelings will stick, and then you'll want to change and do good. And that, to me, is the key for changing a bad habit to a good habit, is you want to change the bad habit to a good habit. It's been a very interesting show, Don. We'll have to definitely address this again because you can go on for hours about this. Want to thank everybody for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Check us out on our website at donhanstonshow.com. There you can find links to everything, all our shows, even our 24/7 live radio show. You can also email us at straightupdonhanston@gmail.com. That's straightupdonhanston@gmail.com. Check out our podcast also. We're on Apple, Overcast, Spotify, Rumble, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audio. We're all over the place. And if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Hit the subscribe button And also, give us a like. It'll help us out a lot. So, on behalf of Don and Marcel, I'm Sal. Thanks for joining us for the Don Hanston Show. Thank you.
Thank you.